So it's similar with our lives. The only reason negativity is there is when we overcome it, we will achieve heights we couldn't dream were possible. מה שאמר כל מאן דבאי למעיל לגבי כבר ידעת היטב עניין התרעין כמה שאמר בסמוך, ועניין סוף כל תרעין פירושו בחינה האחרונה שבהם שאין עוד שפלה הימינה, ואפשר לכנותה מלכות דמלכות. But we still haven't answered the question, how come the energy level, malchut, that should be the lowest of the low, why does that come first? Why does it make sense that the lowest part becomes the highest part? So now we're going to answer. היינו בראשית שבו פתח התורה, כי בראשית מורה על יראת השם מבחינת השער האחרון, שהוא ראשית להשגת חוכמה הילה. So we actually learn it from the first word in the Torah, bereshit, in the beginning. How do we get it from that word? You take the bet away from bereshit and you have the word reshit. Where else do we have the word reshit? Reshit chokhmah, yirat Hashem. The beginning of wisdom is the fear of Hashem, literally translated. So what does the first word of the Torah and this verse have to do with each other? The numerical value of the letter bet is 2. So if you take the word bereshit, you have bet and reshit. 2 in the beginning. What 2? What are we talking about here? Imagine there are 2 points in existence somewhere. One is a point of light that is revealed, and one is concealed. And they're technically separate entities, but they are joined together so strongly that they are considered one. And that's why they're called the beginning. That's why they're called that. That's why they're put in reshit, in the word reshit. It's not bereshiot in the plural version of beginnings. They are the beginning, the singular beginning. And then the bet in bereshit is there to tell us, yes, there are technically 2 points, but really they're one. What does that mean exactly? What are we talking about here? תכן נקודין הללו הוא סוד המיתוק דמידת הדין במידת הרחמים שהמלכות עלתה ונמתקה בבינה. So the point that is revealed, for lack of a better word, corresponds to the aspect of mercy within the spiritual system, and the point that is hidden corresponds to the aspect of judgment within the spiritual system. What do judgment and mercy mean in these cases? We're not talking about a court case. We're talking about mercy is energy that we have a vessel big enough to handle. Judgment is much greater energy, but we as we are not yet ready to handle all the energy coming down. It's almost like, for those of you who know how a light bulb is built, you have the positive node, a negative node, and you have something in the middle. Sometimes it's called filament, sometimes it's something else. So current will always flow between the positive and the negative nodes, and then something will stop it in the middle, and that thing that stops it in the middle gives us light. What happens as soon as there's nothing in the middle? All of the energy goes from one side to the other immediately, and the light bulb shorts out, and that's it. So mercy is with something in the middle, judgment is without something in the middle. So malchut, which we said is yirat Hashem. So what does it have to do with these 2 points? When these 2 points are put together, it represents when malchut goes up to bina. Bina is another of the 10 spiritual levels. It's rather up there, and malchut is at the very bottom. When malchut goes up to bina, malchut goes up to bina, and therefore it escapes this idea of judgment, because bina is much higher. It can handle a much higher energy level. So when malchut goes up to bina, the 2 points join, and we sweeten the judgment with mercy. what we're really talking about is we're creating a system where we can handle all of the energy coming down. כלומר, אף על פי שמידת הדין היא בגניזה, אין הפירוש שאין הזיווג נעשה עליה, כאילו בית הנקודות נעשו אחד ממש, וגם נקודות המלכות מקבלת הזיווג עם נקודות הבינה, אלא בחשאי ולא בהתגליה, וזה מורה השם ראשית, שהוא לשון יחיד, ששתיהן הן אחד. And that's why the word ראשית is in singular and not in plural. ואומר שבסוד הוא ושמו אחד, מחויבות שתיהן נהיות אחד, כי בהיותן אחת מקבלת גם המלכות את הזיווג העליון יחד עם הבינה, שעל ידי זה נמתקת לבסוף גם מידת הדין בפני עצמה בגמר התיקון אשר ביום ההוא יהיה השם אחד ושמו אחד. So there's a verse that talks about the end of days, Mashiach, Messiah, whatever you want to call it, and it says on that day the Creator and His name will be one. Kind of a weird concept. You can either, like a person can either be, you can either say that a person is their name or a person and their name are different, but why does it need to specify that the Creator and His name will be one, as if His name is an entirely separate entity? Why does it have to say that? It's actually talking about, what it's really talking about is Malchut and Bina, mercy and judgment. And when they come together, that's called Hu v'shmo echad. Him and his name are one. So now that we understand that Malchut goes up to Bina, we know why Malchut is considered the first gate, the top gate. Why? Because Malchut is no longer at the bottom. Malchut has risen up to the top, and that's how we know that's where we need to go for our spiritual journey. Yirat Hashem, the fear of Hashem. Now, when we say fear of the Creator, fear of Hashem, we don't mean fear of punishment or being struck down by lightning for doing something wrong. No, that's not what we're talking about. It's the understanding that everything negative in our lives is also from the Creator. It's not that there are two forces at play here and they're constantly in a battle with each other and we have to try and get on the good forces, good side, so that we'll be okay. No. Even the most negative things you could imagine are also from the Creator. The Creator put these obstacles in our place so we could enjoy that much more once we get to the end goal, which is Yirat Hashem, the fear of Hashem. But it's not really fear, because if you take the word Yirah, the word Yirah means fear in Hebrew, has the same letters as the word Lirot, which means to see. So what is the fear of Hashem? It's when we can truly see that everything negative in our lives was put there by the Creator. משיב, למה נקראת המלכות יראת השם? הוא משיב משום שהמלכות היא אילן של טוב ורע, זכה אדם הנה טוב, ואם לא זכה הנה רע. So why is Malchut called Yirat Hashem? Fine. I understand that Malchut is Yirat Hashem, and that when Malchut goes up to Bina, that's why it's called the beginning of Chokhmah. That's why it's called the beginning, because it's now risen above its normal station. But what is the connection between Malchut and Yirat Hashem? Why is there any connection between them? So we say that Malchut, that Yirat Hashem, from what point are we talking about Yirah? Etzadat Tov V'Ra, the tree of knowledge, good and bad. That's the full name of the tree. Most people leave it at the tree of knowledge, but it's very important to include in the name tree of knowledge, good and bad. Why? Because in our world, in our physical world, a lot of times it seems like a person does something good or does something well and they get good results. Person does something not so well and they get not so good results. That's how it seems in our physical world. And since Malchut represents the physical world, and the physical world seems to be governed by these laws of cause and effect and consequences, that's why it's called Yirat Hashem, the fear of Hashem. והיא השער לבוא לכל טוב שבעולם. שכל טוב הוא אלו בית שערים, דהיינו בית נקודות שהם כאחד. רבי יוסי אמר, שכל טוב זהו עץ החיים. שהוא שכל טוב בלא רע כלל, ובשביל שאין רע שורה בו, הוא שכל טוב בלי רע. So, if we can get above this mindset of good and bad, punishment, reward, then we arrive at this place of ultimate fulfillment where all the good in the world comes from. And we get to the second half of the verse that we quoted at the beginning, Sechel Tov, a good mind, a good brain. It doesn't translate super well into English, but it's never about the literal translation. What does Sechel Tov represent? It represents, according to Rabbi Yossi, Etz HaChaim, the tree of life. What is the tree of life? The tree of life is this state of ultimate fulfillment. למה נקרא השער האחרון בשם יראת השם שכתוב עליה, ראשית חוכמה יראת השם, הוא כי הסוד, עץ הדעת טוב ורע, שחטא בו האדם הראשון, כי על נקודה דע ונשייה במיתה, והיראה הגדולה היא שלא לפגמה. So why is this last gate called fear of Hashem? Because the sin of Adam with the fruit from the tree of knowledge was actually about this. It was only on this one point. He did everything else right, but at this one point, this tree of knowledge, good and bad, that's where he went wrong. And that's why it's called Yirat Hashem, the fear of Hashem, because that's exactly where he went wrong. כי גילוי החוכמה אלה הוא כל טוב העולם הנכלל במחשבת הבריאה, מכיוון שירת השם היא השער הראשון לחוכמה אלה, נמצא שהוא השער לכל טובה דעלמא. So once we understand that this Yirat Hashem, this fear of Hashem, this lowest part is actually only a gateway to get to all the fulfillment, all the good that we want in life, we realize that this idea of punishment and reward is just another one of those locks that we have to be able to open. And once we're able to open it, we have access to whatever we want. And that's why Yirat Hashem is called the gateway to this upper king, higher wisdom, or whatever you want to call it. רבי יוסי אינו חולק על רבי חייא, אלא משמעות דורשין איכא בניו, כי רבי חייא מבאר מקרא על אחר תיקון הבן, שאז נעשו בית הנקודות ובית צרעין, כנ"ל ואין בהם רע והם שכל. Okay. So, seemingly, Rabbi Chia, who started off the conversation, and Rabbi Yossi, who we just discussed, they seem to be disagreeing. How are they disagreeing? Rabbi Chia spent most of this time saying that these 2 points are about the sweetening of the judgment, and Rabbi Yossi seems to be saying that these two points are actually entirely good. There is no judgment in there. So they seem to be arguing. But we know that they're not. How are they not arguing? Because they're talking about 2 different time periods. Rabbi Chia is talking about after we fix the Malchut, after Malchut goes up to Binah. After Malchut goes up to Binah, the 2 points have been joined together, the judgment has been sweetened, and we've gone through the tree of knowledge to Chokhmah Ilah, to the higher wisdom, to all of the fulfillment in the world. Rabbi Yossi is talking about beforehand. Beforehand, why did Rabbi Yossi bring up the tree of life? Because beforehand, before we fix the Malchut, before Malchut goes up to Binah, we are forced to, our main energy source is actually from the tree of life, because we haven't yet gone through and fixed the tree of knowledge, good and bad. So they're not really arguing about what's going on, they're just talking about different time periods. לכל עושיהם אלו הם חסידי דוד הנאמנים, מחזיקי התורה. ואלו המחזיקים את התורה, הם כביכול עושים התורה. So now there's all talks about the last part of the words. תהילתו עומדת לעד. So it's saying that it's talking about those who hold on to the Torah. What does it mean to hold on to the Torah? Or this knowledge of spirituality? It means those who support the ones that learn the knowledge of spirituality. We'll get to the ones who actually learn it in a second. And it's saying here, and this all says, that those who support the ones that learn this knowledge of spirituality, it's as if they wrote this knowledge themselves. Now, obviously they didn't. It was all created by the Creator. But they arrive at a point where it's as if they created it themselves. What does this mean? What is this good, bad, neither? What are we talking about? כל אלו עוסקים בתורה, אין בהם עשייה בעוד שהם עוסקים בה, אבל אלו שמחזיקים אותה יש בהם עשייה, ובכוח זה מתקיים הכתוב תהילתו עומד לעד והכיסא עומד על קיומי כראוי. So, before we arrive at this point of having fixed the tree of knowledge, good and bad, the ones who are holding on to the Torah or the spiritual knowledge, the ones who are supporting those that learn spiritual knowledge, seem to be the more important. And I put that in very large quotation marks. Why more important in a sense? Because they are given the status of as if they created it. What does it mean as if they created it? They're the ones who are keeping this knowledge going, because without the support of these people, the ones who are learning would have to make their own money. They wouldn't have time to sit and learn. So what do we? But it's still not a full explanation. קיבר לאל ששר זה דירת השם שהוא האחרון השערים, הוא השער הראשון לחכמי להב, ונמצא ינון דילן ולראיתם, שהם כבר תקנו השער האחרון ונעשו להם שני נקודות לשני אתרין שהם שכתו בלא רע. הרי נבחן שבינון דלענן באורייתא לת בהו עשייה שהיא בחינת עץ הדעת טוב ורע. So the reason that those who are supporting those who learn this spiritual knowledge are important are because they're the ones who are actually fixing the tree of knowledge, good and bad. They're the ones who help Malchut go up to Binah. What about the people who are actually learning the spiritual knowledge? If that's the case, why do we learn it at all if it doesn't do anything? It's not the case. It's also very important. Those who learn spiritual knowledge are already connected to a time after we fixed everything, after the Mashiach or Messiah or whatever you want to call it has already come. They are setting us up for the future. So they're already up there. So they're connected to the tree of life. They're like Rabbi Yossi, they're like Rabbi Chia, who was already at the end game. So why are the ones who are supporting them important if we're already at the end game? Because once we get there, out of the two, there's only going to be one group that truly has this aspect of Yirat Hashem, which is the gateway to wisdom. And then after we fix the tree of knowledge, good and bad, there's not going to be any more opportunity to go through this gateway because it'll be fixed. So who's going to have access to this wisdom if nobody supports those who learn spiritual knowledge? So it's actually at the end of days, when Mashiach comes, when Messiah comes, this group of people who are supporting those who learn spiritual knowledge, they're actually going to be the ones who make sure that we still have access to this higher wisdom, ultimate fulfillment, etc. My big takeaway from this, you can take away whatever you would like from this. My big takeaway from this is that every single negative moment in our lives, no matter how dark we think it is, was put there very specifically, very deliberately by the Creator, so that once we overcome it, not only will that negativity be removed, but as negative as it seemed, it'll turn to be that much more positive. So, in your lives, in my life, wherever we see negativity, look where it can become more positive. And through what it says in the Zohar, I don't want to promise you, but I'm fairly sure that it will change your life. Thank you.